Britain has become a multicultural hotspot, with statistics from the 2011 census stating that over 1 million of us are the offspring of interracial couples. As long as there has been migration, there have been interracial relationships. If we were to, however, look back at our society in the 17th century, things would have been a lot different. Although the UK never adopted an anti-miscegenation law like the US, interracial relationships were frowned upon and viewed as a tabooed subject. With Britain now being such a diverse society, it seems rather irrelevant to discuss the subject of race and relationships. However, even in our now multicultural Britain, there is still a minority of people opposed to these interracial relationships, cultural mixing, and the very idea of mixed-raced individuals, posing the question, is Britain really as accepting as it seems?
I still think there's a lot of prejudice and there's quite a few ignorant people about, but they're just scared to admit it in public, really.
I'm very happy that, since the 60s, things have improved so much, I want to have a choice if I want to.
Like sometimes black girls will kiss their teeth when they see me with a white girl because they don't think that we should be going out with white girls and stuff like that. So it comes from both sides.
We will ultimately end up a multi-racial society.
I don't actually know anyone in an interracial relationship, which is weird in this day and age.
It's the same as any other relationship. It's all about whether you love the person or not, yeah.
Victoria is a student at the London Arts University of Wimbledon. Her partner Antonio is a successful freelance producer at Sky Sports. The couple also runs a hectic lifestyle on the athletic field, with Victoria often training and competing with her sister Christine Ohorogu in athletic events worldwide.
He lives in Hertford. I think the first time we went out there, and obviously because it's really different, I come from East London and stuff, and I did notice people would stare. I just thought whatever, I don't really take things like that to heart. I don't think you should respond by being negative towards them, because I know as annoying as it is for people if people were rude to you and stuff, you can't fight fire with fire kind of thing. I think
you're probably not going to change their mind with being negative towards them.
They'll just see that, they'll be yeah, we'll see, you're all the same kind of thing. I've always gone through life whatever, people, even my parents, Nigerian parents would want you to marry a Nigerian, but whatever, innit? I'm growing up, I do whatever the hell I want.
There are slight cultural differences between us. There's a lot of kind of things with our parents and them being religious and stuff that are quite similar anyway.
In my house, I haven't really been brought up. We don't really do the traditional Nigerian thing. I don't really eat the fruit that much either. Really weird, because
she likes kind of rock music, and I grew up on garage and grime.
Yeah,
which
it's the
complete.
The stereotypes is
East
complete
London.
opposite.
Cultural diversity in schools is good from a young age, but it's definitely education. If you accept from a young age that idea that everyone's equal, that everyone's a human being, and there are certain values I think that aren't relative. That you have to understand as a person. No one's born racist. You're born as a blank slate as a baby.
Teju is a radio presenter from Essex who is of Nigerian descent. She, like many black women in the UK, chooses not to date outside of her colour, with reasons stemming back to cultural differences and personal tastes. It is not uncommon to hear these views, even in our multicultural Britain.
Generally, Nigerians do not have anything against people being with somebody from another race, but some people do. I'm not attracted to non-black people. I like my own culture, so I like what I like. When it comes to things like relationships and marriage, I think there's a lot of things that you need to think about. Some differences in cultures could cause problems in the relationship. On the radio show, one of the phone-ins, somebody actually said that they would only want a black woman, they want a Nubian princess, and they want someone that they can cook the food that they like to eat. If you marry a white woman, she's not going to be able to cook your amala, your fufu, your pounded yam and egusi soup. We've struggled, we've been through a lot, and he just wants to be with a black woman, somebody that has shared the history that his people have been through. A lot of people that have no connection with their culture, some of them run mentally ill. It's like a child that has never met their father. They don't know who they are, and it's just lost. They're lost. I think it's dangerous not to see colour. You can't ignore it. I am a black woman, not a darker white woman. I'm a black woman. So, there's nothing wrong with saying black, and there's nothing wrong with saying white. You need to know yourself, your history, your culture, where you're coming through, what your people have been through, what your people have overcome.
Actor Christopher Colquhoun has a very unique view on our multicultural Britain. Being adopted by two white parents in an age where political correctness did not exist made the way he identified with race growing up very different than most.
I remember cycling through Italy, and virtually everywhere we went, people just stared. They stared and stared and stared. For the most part, there was no real sense of race until I got older. I and my little sister were the only kids of any colour. It wasn't a massive issue when I was a child growing up. I never was aware of it until I went to secondary school, and then it started kicking me in the face hard. Suddenly there are black kids. There's a kind of secret method of communication between them that I don't understand, and I feel apart from it. I started to get cold coconut. I'd been essentially brought up culturally white with no reference points in my life to what it might mean to be black. I was like 15, 16 before I went to a black barber's. I was just like, oh my God, what is this place? I just felt like an alien, an imposter. If I think about my mixed race friends, quite a high number of them do or have had issues with mental health and depression, including myself. And I think that there is always a sense of wanting to fit in. When you try to hang on to both parts of your culture and not deny anything, that sets you up for battles. Everything's down to fear, isn't it? Fear of diluting Englishness, whiteness. I think things always are improving, but I also believe that inherently racism will always exist. Gene that's put on things so people don't really want to admit that they're racist. The number of times I've had people say to me, I'm not racist, but those effing packies or whatever, just go, what? I mean, I don't mean you're all right. I don't want to be all right in your book, thank you very much. That's happened periodically throughout my life and still occurs now. And I wonder about how much racism there is in this country. As much as I do think that it's better than most countries I've ever experienced, I still wonder if we're as open as we think.
Robin Gray is the Christchurch representative for UKIP, a party which is rapidly growing in popularity and known for its members' controversial statements. With this gain in popularity, the party's views may be an indicator for what's in store for future Britain.
We've had 4 million immigrants since 2004. If you go to Bournemouth Beach and you sit there for long enough, you'll probably find that all the accents you hear are from Eastern Europe. And that in a way is an affront to our sense of who we are, that we're now swamped by cultures that we haven't chosen. They're just coming in because someone decides that the free movement of people is something which is good for us, and I don't think it is. The offspring of a multiracial marriage, you get sort of a coffee-coloured child who doesn't quite fit in if they're in a predominantly white-dominated neighbourhood. But that is less of a problem these days because people are more accepting of diverse cultures, colours and backgrounds. But that is a decision for the couple who decide they fall in love, they want to get married, and that is for them. It's not for me or anybody else to say they should or should not do that. A lot of people do feel swamped by other cultures, and they don't feel as though Britishness is actually being promoted. It's being undermined by a flood of individuals from places that really don't mean too much to us. And I think it's easy for the opposition to us to try to put that label on UKIP, so it sounds like it's coming from a racist position, but we are not. We should be able to teach our kids, both at home and in the schools, that we should treat everybody based on their behaviour, their standards of behaviour, and not the colour of their skin or their religion or their background. And perhaps there are one or two of us that could be re-educated in that way. Perhaps it could.
The prejudice of dating outside of your race is often noticed by the individuals in an interracial relationship. Vicky has dated men from different cultural backgrounds, and as a single mother to 11-year-old Shania, who is mixed race, she has personally been affected by this prejudice.
I didn't know my family were racist. I had no idea until I think a guy called Troy had called my house phone My dad answered, and when I got off the phone he said, Troy doesn't sound very white. Somebody had written on the shutters of the off licence, Vicky's Wogs Meat. Just seeing Vicky Kitz's Wogs Meat was a bit of a shocker. And that for my dad, he thought that I was going to be seen a certain way because he'd heard how the white men in the pub talked about the white girls that were with black men. He felt that I was going to be mistreated by a black guy, and I had to face to him to say, actually, the things you think are going to happen to me, you actually did to my mum. And that was huge. And from that point on, nobody really said anything. White people thought the black guys or the Asian guys were going to mistreat me, but the black family maybe thought that I was just easy and they were going to use me, they would never marry me. I've had like black women say that when they see me with a black brother, that they can see the chain around my foot. There was white people that stood with black people. You don't know whether I would have been one of those people. I had a fear when I had my daughter that she could be confused and not know who her identity was, and that I was creating a human being that was going to be lost in society. I remember we were praying before we went to bed, and she said there was something she wanted to talk to God about when I wasn't there. So I said, okay, no problem, and I left the room. But being a mum, I did look through the slates and her doors, and she was saying to God, they don't like me at school because they don't like the colour of my skin. And she said to God, I know I'm golden and I'm meant to be golden because you made me golden and I'm special, but they don't like me because of the colour of my skin. And she sat up in the bed and she pulled out her ears. She was about 6, and she said to God, what am I meant to do? And she sat waiting. I was just thinking, he's not going to answer. And she said, okay, I will be nice to them, and laid back down and went to sleep. But she'd experienced it as a 6-year-old. There's a lot of pressure from the black community, pressure in basic things like her hair. I don't know how to look after her hair, I'm not going to know how to look after her skin. Yeah, it's different, but it's good to cream your skin, whatever race you are. A bit of a thing where people say white people haven't got much culture because we're here, and what have we got? There is a culture, but I think there can be a problem with holding on to it so dearly that it prevents you from experiencing other people, other cultures, other ways in the world. I've had to re-educate family members now to accept my daughter and how that, and I've seen I believe that people can change. I just think individuals have to make a stand to say that's wrong and stand for what's right.
Singer-songwriter Poppy has struggled to find her place in society and has been a victim of racism throughout her childhood. As mixed race, Poppy now embraces both aspects of her cultural heritage.
When I was young, I did feel a bit like, I don't know if dislodged is the worst, like I wasn't really sure where I kind of belonged. When you're young, it's quite hard to, I don't know, fit yourself into a place. You always want to fit into a certain kind of group. And you think that white people are going to be more racist usually, but I experienced it way more from black people. Also, as I kind of got more into my culture, people were like, what, you're white, you can't listen to that music, or like you can't dance like that. People kind of naturally judge you on what you look like. And I hate having to tick the box of like where you're from, and I never fit in the box. And I know it's positive discrimination, but it still irritates me. With mixed race people, sometimes people don't think that we get racism because we're not black or white. We're like a mixture, obviously, or in any mixed races, to be honest. And I think it's because it's subtle. And I think it's also because people don't realise they're being racist. You should be able to marry or be with whoever you want. And probably the reasons that they had for that, like back in the day when religion was kind of at its beginnings, don't apply anymore. And I think that people just need to kind of learn that it doesn't really matter.
Children are often known for their innocence and honesty, while many adults may perhaps disguise their true views. Jenny Hammond primary school students are diverse in backgrounds, race and upbringing. Their views on what multicultural means to them can perhaps teach some of us, as well as giving us a glimpse into Britain's future.
I come from England, but most of my family come from Jamaica.
From Poland.
My native country is Sri Lanka.
I'm from this road.
Half Antiguan and my mum's English.
Can you tell me what you think mixed race means?
When somebody isn't white or black.
A black person and a white person marry and they have a child.
When your parents come from are different colours.
What do you think about different races getting married?
We're all born free. You shouldn't have to marry somebody just because people say you have to. It doesn't matter what skin colour you have, you can still get married to the person you want to. You're allowed to love whoever you want. Anyone can love anybody if they even if they look different.
How do you feel about racism?
People were to make fun of your skin colour, you wouldn't quite like it, so I don't think it's fair to make fun of others.
Racism is a bad thing because it makes people upset.
No, I don't know what racism is.
Anything else?
We were learning about World War II and Hitler, and he said he only wanted people that are blonde-haired and blue-eyed. So she asked us to stand up if we were blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and I looked at Demelza and I said, Demelza, stand up, but it turns out she was mixed race, not white. So then the whole class laughed at me, but I just didn't notice.
So it seems we each individually have our own take on culture mixing, and perhaps we are not too far out of reach of a unanimous understanding. But really only time will determine the outcome of how long it will be until we are truly accepting of interracial relationships, culture mixing, and our multicultural Britain.
Friend, Max, told me a very funny dream, and my drink came out my nose.
And that's it.